Well, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Live Laugh Lopez podcast, where we talk about all things life, marriage, ministry, and so much more, all while sharing, hopefully, some laughs along the way. My name is Jose Lopez, and this is my wonderful, beautiful, incredible wife, Natalie Lopez. How are you?
I'm doing wonderfully.
I'm doing wonderfully too. So, we decided to go live tonight to talk about a wonderful, wonderful marriage topic that people have asked us about before. And today we just thought it would be a great idea to talk about it live on national YouTube TV, where it would be fun and exciting, and maybe people will watch and join in. So, Natalie, what would we like to talk about today?
Today we're going to talk about conflict
Conflict.
in marriage.
Love conflict in marriage.
Fighting styles. Like fighting with your spouse.
Fighting styles like Kung Fu,
No, like
karate, MMA, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
actual fighting styles. Like arguing styles.
Arguing styles. We don't
Not
argue,
arguing.
babe.
Really? Because 10 minutes.
We're perfect in every
Okay.
single
No,
way.
we're definitely not. And we're going to be sharing some of those truths tonight with you guys.
So exciting.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about this. This is my number one
All right.
topic to ever talk about.
So I'm going to start with the questions
Okay.
for you. What would you say was your communication style in the beginning of our marriage?
There was no communication style.
Can you elaborate on that? Because your communication right now.
There was no communication. I'm trying to get comfortable. I'm not really feeling
I know, I
this
feel
setup
like,
today.
okay, I feel more
This
comfortable.
microphone's getting on my nerves, and it's just coming. Come on. Why don't you just keep coming? All right, I'll just hold it and look ghetto on our live stream. It's totally fine. So, communication style. My communication style early on in our marriage, it didn't exist because I was horrible at communication.
Jenna. Hey, Jenna, we love you.
Oh, there she goes. Yeah. So I was horrible at communication because I genuinely did not know how to communicate. Did not grow up dealing with conflict in a healthy way. Did not see conflict being dealt with in a healthy way growing up. And I grew up in an environment where there was a lot of violence, a lot of chaos, a lot of screaming and yelling. And so I didn't feel like I ever really knew how to defend myself verbally. I only knew how to defend myself physically. And so that was hard in a relationship.
But not with me.
No, not with you. Let me make that clear for everybody to know. Jose has never laid a hand on his wife nor girlfriend, which is the problem, though. Because not the problem. That's going to be a soundbite on YouTube. Because the issue that I had was I only knew how to defend myself physically, but I couldn't do that, obviously,
In a
relationship. And so that was hard. So a lot of times when we would deal with conflict, I would end up shutting down, not talking, running away, not dealing with the situation. And so, yeah, what was my conflict resolution style? It was non-existent. Communication style, non-existent.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. What was your communication style, my love?
My
Because
communication
we all
style,
know you're perfect in every way.
pretty much. But my communication style was to just talk about things right away.
Which was frustrating.
Yeah, I'm still pretty much the same way. I mean, I've gotten better, and you still can shut down sometimes too and avoid. But you've gotten a little bit better. But but my style.
It's getting real, y'all.
Yeah, my style was just to talk about things. Like, let's talk about it. Not later, but I want to talk about right now, this instant. Like,
But
right now.
Let's be honest and real. Not only do you love to talk about things right away, but you also might talk a little bit too much.
No,
Mm.
it's not giving that.
What? Okay, here we go, guys. You're getting a first
Guys,
person view
it's funny
of.
because I didn't really
Okay,
want to
here's what I
talk
mean
about
by
conflict
this.
because I think it's like
Guys, we're
too
gonna
real
argue. We're going to argue while
about
talking
conflict.
about how we argue. We're gonna
Yeah.
fight while talking about how to fight fair. What I mean by that, and you know this is
Oh,
true.
you're saying that. I get what you're saying. I think you're saying that I was really good with my words.
Yes, you're very good with
That's
your
a
words,
compliment.
but no. I didn't mean it in a good way. Okay, because what I meant was that when you get in your unhealthy place, you might take digs and kind of.
I have no problem saying how I feel. And it's,
But sometimes it's too much.
yeah, sometimes if it's unfiltered, then
It's very bad.
you will leave feeling like you have been to war and lost a war.
A million times.
Yeah, because I have no problem.
Because your tongue is a sword.
Yeah, and I do love words.
Oh, yeah.
Words are my passion.
You're a wordsmith when it comes to the fighting game.
Yeah, but I mean, I've gotten better.
No,
'cause
you've
there's
gotten
a lot
better.
of things that I can say that I
Especially
don't say anymore.
since the beginning.
Yeah,
You've definitely gotten better. But that's what.
that comes with a lot of angry journaling.
That that was part of the issue with our relationship early on, was that you talked a lot
And you
and
didn't
you'd
talk
like
enough.
to address stuff, and I didn't talk enough.
You didn't talk at all.
I didn't talk at all. And so you could defend yourself very well verbally, while
just
I
shut
left
down.
always feeling like I lost because I couldn't defend myself very well.
Yeah. And so, when you're upset about something, what do you tend to do now in 2022? Fast
Right
forward.
now, fast forward, I think I tend to obviously get more. I still shut down, I would say.
But for
but
shorter amount of time.
Shorter amount of time, but I also get more contemplative. What I mean is that I want to think about what I say, how I say it, think about a strategy where I can defend myself, and try to use more wisdom now than I did back then. Whereas back then I would want to defend myself to win. Now I still want to defend myself to win, but I also want us to win together. So it takes me a little bit less time to get there,
Yeah.
to where it's like, okay, not only do I want to respond to hurt you back or to hurt you, period, but I want to respond in a way that could be more healthy towards building our relationship and resolving an issue rather than continuing to get deeper into it.
Yeah.
Kind of sometimes.
I think that my style has changed and I'm more like you now. I will just isolate. I'll get quiet and ignore and like not talk.
Are you saying I'm a bad influence?
No, I'm just saying my
Oh,
style has
okay.
changed now. Like now, I mean, would you agree? Do you think that I'm always like talking it out, or do you feel like I'm more
I think
quiet about
no,
things?
I wouldn't say. Yeah, you're definitely more quiet about things, but I
Quiet
also
but deadly.
I also would say that I think you just use a lot more wisdom now.
How do you know when I'm upset in 2022? What are your
I
signals?
think
from
you
me?
definitely get more distant. You're very easily agitated. You know.
Those are your signs to run for your life.
Yeah, signs of like you're not. I just know most of the time you're very cheerful. You got a smile on your face. You're always joking around, which can sometimes be a lot of fun to deal with.
You're welcome that you're married to a fun and not boring person, because I
But
make your life better. You're welcome.
but so I know that when you're not behaving that way, something's up,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
And so
But I'm less mean with my words. I don't think I
You're
shoot off
definitely
at the
less-
mouth. I just
I-
get quieter because now I'm at the place where it's like if I know that I'm gonna say something that's gonna hurt someone, specifically you, because obviously we're talking about marriage, then I will try to journal it out so I'm not getting it out verbally to you. So, and by journaling it out, I'm like writing to God.
yeah,
Dear Jesus, help
I
me.
made the mistake of reading one of your journal entries one day, and I was like, "Oh my God, she hates me."
First of all, Don't read my journal.
You left it out and open, so it was easy access.
That was to the Lord.
Easy, yeah. Well, to the Lord about how horrible of a person I was and how you wanted to kill me. If anybody wants to know what happened to Jose, just go to Natalie's journals.
Number one, that was between me and my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Number two, that's why I write my feelings out, so that I'm not actually getting them out to you.
I kind of wish you would get them out to me. Because then I read it, I'm like, oh my gosh, am I still, like, does she still feel this way? Does she hate me? Did I do something? Like, does she still have this pent up inside of her? Like, do I have to worry about being suffocated while I'm sleeping?
You were never meant to see that, number one. And number two, it's a safe place for me to write. Because I'm a words person.
No, yeah.
Instead of getting the words out,
with your mouth,
which I might as well have because you ended up reading them, I write them out to the Lord about what I'm feeling, and He can help me through the feelings. Okay? So my next question. Guys, today's podcast episode is straight chaos. We're bringing you chaos. I apologize. He didn't look at the notes in advance.
I did look at the notes
2 seconds before we got on this. Okay.
You're getting raw. This is live, raw footage.
This is why I hate going live, but it's okay.
Why? What's wrong with it? I think we're doing great.
I know, but I'm laughing too much. Okay, moving on. How do you manage conflict well in marriage? Like, what's a way that people can handle conflict well?
I always encourage people to pregame.
Ooh, tell me more.
What I mean by pregame, no, I do not mean an alcohol thing, which I apparently learned was a thing, but we're not going to go there. What I mean by pregaming is I think we do a lot of good conversation and communication before we even have a conflict most of the time, which allows us to talk about things before they're actually a problem. So that when they come up as a problem, I think they're less of an issue to deal with, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you and I have had some pretty good conversations either just when we're laying in bed or when we're driving on one of our trips to a place or whatever the case may be. And we've talked about what most would think are difficult things, or like just in general about like the things that we like, the things we don't like, the things that have been bothering us, or the things that could potentially bother us.
Yeah. I think our best and worst conversations have happened in a car.
Yeah.
Over the years.
Yeah. And so I think pre-gaming it, having intentional what may be difficult discussions before they become a problem. But I also think coming to a conversation with openness and honesty, but also with a mindset of humility that says, hey, I'm not telling you this to hurt you.
Yeah.
Or to like make you feel like a horrible person. I'm telling you this because this is how I feel.
Yeah.
And I don't want to feel this way, but I also don't want you to make you feel a certain way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I like that idea. I think too, something really important before you go into conflict is just managing the distractions around you.
What do you mean by that?
So I think just simple things like turning off your phone and like being fully present with the person and not having anything that's distracting you. I think that's important in managing, like in actually going into a conflict, giving that person your undivided attention. I think going into conflict, going in with the mentality like that I want to hear you. Not about, I'm going to get what I want to get out, but going in with an attitude of like, I'm coming in to be able to hear you, to understand what you're saying. So if I come in with an attitude of I'm going to hear you, I'm going to listen to what you have to say. It's not about me getting my agenda out there. I think that's important in being able to like address conflict. I wrote down too, watching our tone is important between us both.
Which, by the way, going back to what you said about like coming in to listen, I think you're way better at that than I am.
Yes.
I typically come in to listen so that I can give you a response.
Yeah.
Which is horrible, guys. Don't do that. But, you know, I think you're way better at that than I am for sure. Like actually going in with the intent of I'm going to listen and I'm not going to look for my way to like get in and get my jab in and respond in a way that's like, okay, but I'm sorry you feel that way, but here's why,
what I have to say.
Or here's what I have to say. Like,
I think asking questions, not overwhelming questions, but asking clarifying questions in like a safe way to help better understand.
No, that's good because I think, you know, one of the things that Pastor Brendan is always talking about in like pastoring and just people is like, he's always saying that like the problem is not the real problem.
Yeah.
And so we always like, there's actually this, it's this way of getting to the root of issues. It's called like the 5 whys, right? And so if you ask at least 5 why questions, clarifying questions, you actually get to the root of the issue.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times that's like so applicable to marriage because typically the issue is not really the issue.
Yeah.
Right. So the issue is not that you didn't take out the trash. The issue is that
you don't listen.
When I tell you to do it. Or the issue is, hey, I don't feel like I can actually depend on you because it's not just the trash. You didn't take out the trash. You didn't do the dishes. You didn't help with this. I'm dealing with the, you know, the boys by myself, blah, 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 blah. And so when you get down to the real issue, you know, I think you and I had something like that a few weeks or months back where it was like, it wasn't about, you know, me having to be at some event. It was about the fact that like there was some childhood trauma that, you know, it like triggered or whatever the case may be. And so I only say that
I like to be around you.
Yeah, well,
as a person.
It's also, I just say that to say that like it is important to ask clarifying questions to get to the real root of whatever issue you're dealing with.
But being timely, not just like, there's nothing worse than when you're talking to someone and they're like interviewing you. Mm-hmm. They're like, what about this? Like just using common sense with your questions that will help you better understand why the person, like what you said, the why thing is really, really good. Mm-hmm. And I think managing conflict, like tone is really important going into a conversation with conflict. Jose and I both have smart mouths. So that's a problem. I mean, that's extremely problematic because we both...
I wouldn't say that about myself.
No, we both have smart mouths. And we both have tone problems. So we... Like, when we get into arguments, we're both very spicy. And it's almost like who can one-up the other with, like, the smartest comment that you can possibly find.
Which is really horrible. And at some point, somebody has to humble themselves. And it typically is me.
Or honestly.
I'm just kidding.
Or a lot of times, we will end up laughing about it because the comments are also, like, ridiculous.
Really stupid.
They're dumb. So we'll just, like, it'll turn into, like, sometimes, like, a laughing thing where we're, like... So all that to say, though, watching tone is really important. I think the way that you speak to each other, if there's a way to trigger one of each other, I think we're really the same. If you come crazy at me, I'm going to come crazy at you and vice versa. Like, no one likes that, but that is, like, a trigger. Like, if you talk crazy, it's a no.
Yeah, I think another thing to take into consideration is, like, and you and I have kind of talked about this because we've gotten into trouble with this of like kind of joking around and like throwing little snide comments and like, oh, like we
little
think it's
digs.
Cute little digs,
but they're not funny,
that end up turning into like stupid fights. And it's like, how did we get here? Because we were joking around too much. Like, you know, you use wisdom, I guess. Like, you know, and we've talked about it. Like, we
respect each other with your words.
Yeah,
it's important. And I think, you know, it's also culturally, like, I feel like we come from a culture where we all get on each other all the time. Like, our families do it. It's almost our way of, like, affection. And I'm not saying it's normal.
I personally hate it.
No, but I'm saying that, like, hear what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying, would you agree or disagree, is that we all, like, your brother, myself, like, our way of, like, is just kind of teasing each other, like, relentlessly about things like
Am
that.
I allowed to disagree?
I'm
just
saying,
kidding.
No. I'm saying,
No, I agree
I'm not
with
saying
you.
it's right or wrong.
I agree
I'm just
with
saying
you.
I think some of it is also cultural too, but like you have to have levels of respect. And I think that that's really important, like in tone.
Yeah.
I think that you and I are very similar in that we're triggered by the smart comments because we have smart mouths. We even say it to our kids. Like, we'll be like, not the way you just said that, though. Like, I don't know who you thought you were talking to. But I think going into an argument or going into a conflict, watch your tone, like how you're going to say something, how you're going to address. Go in ready to listen to the other person. Go in like lower defenses, not with the armor up, ready to like battle, especially with your spouse.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I think it all just has to do with humility too. Like,
Oof.
I really
That's
do.
hard.
Because it is hard. It's really hard. And I think that this is where, like, marriage is supposed to make us more like Christ. And that's hard because the way Christ responds in situations is totally different
Then how we want to respond.
than how we want to respond. And so many of us, it's really frustrating because I know it sounds cliche because it's like, oh, what would Jesus do? Or like,
What did
what's the
Jesus
Bible
actually do?
what's
Yeah.
the Bible tell us to do? But the reality is that the Bible is always going to call us to do things that are so much better and so much wiser than what we would normally want to do.
Yeah.
And so the Bible teaches us that we are to humble ourselves. The Bible teaches us that we are to see others as better than ourselves. You know, like, you know, you were sharing with me this morning about Philippians and like doing everything,
Yeah. I can say,
not
like,
doing anything out of.
going through Philippians too, like during a time where I feel like we were going through a lot of conflict, you know, adjusting to schedules and like going into a new school year and like
Getting busier.
getting busier, you know, and that is like, if you're managing calendars and managing busy lives, and we both have busy lives, we both have busy schedules, we both have kids. He has a social wife who also likes to like hang out with her friends. And he has his own little...
No friends.
That's not true. He cycles. You have hobbies and things
No,
that
I
you like to do. So that can be sometimes a source of conflict if we're not really careful to like
Yeah.
constantly over communicate. But anyway, during this time, I was reading through Philippians and I was like, Lord, show me what I need to know to make me a better wife, to make me like who you're calling me to be. And while I was reading it, you know, I was reading about the idea of putting other people up, putting them, they're higher, you know, like putting them at a higher, I don't know how to say it. Like, I want to say the verse, but holding them to a higher esteem.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. And, you know, I'm reading the verse and I'm like, okay, Lord, like, how do I do that with Jose? Like, do I hold him to a higher esteem?
Do you?
At the
I'm just
time,
kidding.
no, because I was mad. But I was praying like, okay, Lord, help me to think about other people. Help me to love him. Help me to put him above myself. Not in like a degrading, like, but in a way where it's like, I love him. Help me to not just think about myself all the time. Because I am thinking about myself.
It's not in a
all the
way
time.
that's degrading. It's in a way that's
Yeah.
Christ-like.
Exactly.
Imagine how much less conflict we would have, or
If you
how
thought
much
about me
easier.
first, and I thought about
Exactly.
you
If we
first.
did that for each
Yes.
other. If I held you in high esteem because I know you are a daughter of the living God, made in the image of God, but you also held me in high esteem as a husband, as a brother in Christ, as the Son of God, who is also made in the image of God. That's the point of the Bible. That's the point
Yeah.
of marriage. Is like, what would the world look like? What would marriages look like? What would
If.
friendships look like?
Yeah.
What would families look like if we actually did what the Bible said and held each other in high esteem and humbled ourselves and made ourselves less than
Yeah.
for the sake of not degrading ourselves, but for the sake of being more Christ-like.
Yes. And
That's
I feel like after reading the verse, there were areas where I was like, okay, here's where I'm getting it all wrong. Here's where I need God to help me.
mm-hmm.
And I do feel like it helped me shift my attitude and my perspective of like, okay, if I look at him at a high esteem and I'm trying to really like love him above all things and vice versa, you know, then it isn't the Natalie show all the time, you know, and it kind of like helped reposition my mind.
Yeah. And I
into
think
a
that's
way.
good because I think somebody has to do that. And it doesn't always have to be you, but there has to be somebody in that moment to be like, okay, yeah, I'm not playing this game.
Yeah.
Like, and I think I would say we have a very good balance of that, where sometimes that's you, sometimes that's me, sometimes you're the
Yeah.
one to come and be like, hey, what's going on? Because this ain't us. Sometimes I'm the one to come
Yeah.
over and be like, hey, what's going on? Because this ain't it,
Yeah.
right? And so, and I just want us both to win. And I think if we would genuinely come into situations, come into fights, come into arguments, thinking, okay, I don't want to win. I want us to win.
Yeah.
You know. And I think that you and I genuinely have gotten better at that.
Yes. And we're still a work in progress. Like,
Yes. 100% a work in progress.
yes.
What was that? What was
I
that?
was giving you the look because I was.
You gave. I
'Cause
know
we
you gave
argued
me
about
the look.
something earlier today. That's why
We literally argued right before coming live
we
on
did,
this
guys.
podcast.
We argued right before coming on this podcast, and I was like, "Man, we're about to do one about conflict, and here we are
Having a
arguing.
conflict.
What the hey?" But we still are here because we're like, honestly, we also have to keep it real. It's like,
Yeah,
when you're married to someone and you live with them,
you are going to have conflict.
you're gonna have conflict.
If you
And-
don't have conflict in your marriage, you're not doing it right. I don't care what anybody says.
Well, that actually leads me to my point of how do you understand each other's styles and make it work? And one of the things I was going to say to that was actually going through conflict has helped us learn each other in general.
Absolutely.
So speak to that a little more.
I think that the only way to learn is through conflict. Also having those pre-gaming conversations, but I think that like it's through conflict. I don't know what bothers you until it bothers you, and
Yeah.
then we have to deal with it, right? Like, you also didn't learn how to deal with somebody like me until you had to deal with somebody like me. So what I
Yeah.
mean by that is, you know, you have learned over the years, like, hey, there's only so far I can push Jose before he wants to like he hits that lid, right? Whereas I also had to learn to be like, hey, dummy, like you don't always have to punch a wall or punch a face to like get a point across. Like, grow up, man up, use your big boy words and have a conversation. And so I think it's just a balance of learning what works best for each other. Like, I know you like to talk things out right away. So guess what? I'm going to have to learn how to communicate and talk and work things out like a grown up.
Yeah.
And have conversations while
Yeah.
also saying, okay, I think I need to back off of this for a little bit because I'm honestly getting really frustrated and I need to think about this or it's not going to go well for either of us kind of thing. While you had to be like, okay, I can tell when he's getting really upset and I need to back off and just let him go for a walk or ride his bike or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Or to say, hey, bro, like, I understand you're upset about this, but we need to talk about this. Right?
Yes.
So
I think time and going through conflict in a healthy way. Like, it is unavoidable that in your relationship, you're going to have conflict because there's no such thing as a perfect couple. I don't care who you are.
you are two different people coming together as one.
You're going to have some kind of conflict, but allowing the conflict to actually push you to learn each other, to learn your style of conflict, to learn better communication, that doesn't happen without going through those road bumps. And I think because of those road bumps in 12 years, have we been married 12 or 13 years?
13 years.
Oh my gosh. I totally forgot. 13.
See the difference, guys? I actually know this stuff.
Listen, I don't care what anyone says. After like the 12th year, it starts just blending in a good way, though.
I'm supposed to say that.
I know, but the point is, after 13 years or however many years we have been together, for sure there's going to be conflict.
We've been married for 13 years.
But we've been together.
We've been together since we were 16.
The point is, from 16 to 35...
19 years.
16 to 35.
I saw the smoke coming out of your ears as you were trying to compute that.
19 years, and I'm not a math person, but I was going to get there. That's a lot of time to learn communication styles. Okay? Can I just tell you, that first year of marriage, communication, off the hook. But I can say now, the communication has gotten much better. There's still areas that we're not perfect, so there's still areas. But
Speak for yourself. I'm pretty close to it.
We're not, I feel like we're talking things through. It's very rare for us to go long periods of time without talking things through.
Yeah.
Without communicating with each other. Like, before, we could just ice each other out, like back in the dating days for days. And now it's like, no, we're actually going to talk to each other because we love each other. And so we want to talk. So I think, don't be afraid to actually go through the conflict.
I'm off. Can I say something?
Yeah.
else?
Say something else.
Don't be afraid to hurt each other's feelings
In a
healthy way.
Yeah.
Safe space. Because I also don't want it to be like, oh, well, I have to diminish how I feel and kind of humble myself and not talk about it.
I don't want to hurt his feelings.
Because I don't want to hurt his feelings.
How I really feel.
Or I don't want to hurt her feelings. Listen, be okay with hurting each other's feelings sometimes, because the truth is...
The truth hurts.
The truth hurts. It does. And I think I tell you that sometimes. Like, you have... Like, be okay with hurting my feelings. Tell me what's really bothering you, because I'm not a mind reader.
Yeah.
And so,
He's told me things that I'm like... Excuse me. What?
And it's okay. I mean, if the intention is not to hurt you,
yeah, you don't go into
to
it thinking I'm going to destroy them,
degrade you,
yeah,
destroy you. I'm just genuinely telling you how I feel. If that hurts your feelings, I'm sorry, but I really want you to know what's bothering me so that we can address the issue.
Yeah, some couples are really afraid of conflict.
Who are afraid of conflict because they don't want to offend their spouse. But it's like, sometimes you have to offend in order to get your point across in a respectful way that's going to be built to healthy edifying for your relationship.
Yeah. And if it's like healthy conflict, there's things you're going to say that are not thrilling to the ears, period. But it doesn't mean it's actually because I love you and because I care about our relationship and I want our relationship to be stronger, I'm going to be honest with you. To not be honest with someone is, to me, the opposite of love. It's not, you're not doing anything towards the relationship, and you're going to end up in more of a problem because you're not being honest. Like, if there's something that makes me unhappy or that's hurting my feelings and I can explain that to you, it's easier for that problem to be addressed. Instead of me not saying anything, throwing passive aggressive digs your way, being secretly angry at you, resenting you for something I never told you about.
Allowing bitterness to take root.
Yeah. Just talk about it.
And then years later, you're trying to deal with an issue that has basically created a stronghold in your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And has a stronghold over your life and your heart. And now you're trying to deal with the issue.
Yeah.
And it's just, actually I forget who I was talking to about this, but, and what ends up happening is that people who end up about to go get divorced and they go to counseling as their last resort.
Yeah.
There are counselors that say if you come to me at that point, you have basically doomed your marriage because you've already made it up in your mind, right? Whereas counseling, if you go to counseling before you even get to that point,
Yeah.
now you're actually working towards something rather than like
Towards a resolution.
So
Yeah. So I wanted to just end with tips
okay.
for couples who struggle with fighting styles.
Mm,
So I'm going to share points and then you jump in on them or add to them.
okay.
Because I feel like I just reflected on things that I feel like have helped us personally.
Okay.
So one of my points is to fight fair with your spouse, don't go below the belt.
Mm,
I think that words can hurt. And when you're with your spouse or your partner for so many years, you know exactly what will hurt them in a way that nobody else can.
don't use their weaknesses.
Yeah, like you know exactly the knife to drag into their soul and to like tear out. So I think you just
like
have
that.
to be really careful
Yeah.
because you've been with them. Like I know I can say things that no one else knows about Jose or like that can just bring you to your knees in an instant.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that. So when you're fighting, fight fair. Don't
Yeah.
go below the belt. Words hurt. You can't take them back.
Yeah.
There's words that Jose has spoken, words of life that I'm always going to remember because of the impact they've had on me at like the lowest point of my life, you know? I can remember.
Even in the middle of an argument.
Yeah.
I think.
And I can remember too, like, just as an example of like a time in my life where I was feeling like so unworthy, like, and so like rejected. I was dealing with things in my family and just going through like a very emotional time. I don't want to cry talking about it.
Oh Lord.
The point is, Jose said something to me at that time. He was basically like I remember we were driving like through the mall, and we stopped at a light, and you looked at me and you were like, "It doesn't matter. Like I love you. Like I choose you." And like,
I think I said you're my girl.
oh my God, I was like crying
Like you're my
because
girl.
I'll always remember that. Like I'll always remember like in that moment, or even in times where I feel that. Those are words that I will always remember because they were words of life at a time when I needed them the most.
Yeah.
So tag your in. 'Cause I'm
Wow,
gonna
you're
cry.
gonna make me cry.
I don't want to cry.
Dear Lord.
But the point is,
no,
words
I
can
would
bring
say-
life.
Yes.
You know,
words
too.
can remember the Bible says that death and life are in the power of the tongue.
Yeah.
Right? And so you can use your tongue for healing or you can use your tongue for
Are you
hurt.
gonna cry? 'Cause-
I'm not gonna cry. I'm trying not to, so leave me alone.
okay.
Leave me
Keep
alone.
talking.
I'm not crying. You're
I
crying.
know. I am crying.
Yeah, no. Use your mouth wisely, right?
Yeah.
And I remember, I think you and I were reading the Love Languages book.
Oh
or
yeah, that's a great book.
I forget if it was Love Languages or what book it was, but there was a book where the author said, and I'll never forget this. Reading this, it said you can do right, but you can be right but wrong by yelling, with yelling, right? And so, I would say, speak to each other respectfully.
Yeah, don't come crazy.
Like honestly, if you feel
You can
like
never take back your words.
yeah, you can
Ever.
never take back your words, and you can be right in the point that you're making.
But saying it,
But
in
if
all
you're
kinds of
saying it
dumb.
in a very disrespectful, dishonoring
Yeah.
way, it's wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so there's no way around that. You can say what you need to say in a way that is respectful, in a way that is honoring, but in a way that is truthful and honest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so talk to each other with respect,
Yeah.
with dignity.
And for me, I'm ready to pop off like at any given time because it just comes to me and I like want to get out what I want to say. But in those moments, in wisdom, I will be like, okay, Nat, you're too heated to talk about this in the moment. So you need to take a time out. Pause.
Take a time out.
Go to Target. Go get some coffee. Go to Dunkin'. Go to Starbucks. Go somewhere.
And be okay with
Take a pause before engaging in the conversation. Because if I'm about to engage in a conversation that I'm not ready to have because I'm all kinds of heated, then I'm going to come into that conversation crazy, disrespectful, wild. Like,
yeah.
so know your own limits. Know that it's okay that you might not be ready to have the conversation in that moment because you are heated or because you have a lot of feelings in that moment. And in that time, take time away, go for a quick drive, go sit in the backyard, like take a breather. And when you are calm and ready to have the discussion, have the discussion. It's better to do that than to force it during a time where you are hot.
And be okay with communicating that. Like, be okay with saying, look, I'm not ready to talk about this right now.
Because I love you. I need
because
to
I love you and I need to like think about this and pray about whatever. I need to go take a walk. Like, be okay with saying, hey, I need to take a time out.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
But I need a
He's
time
good
out.
at that. Because I feel like, because we're both, heated, but I feel like you're good at that too, where it's like, hey, we're going to talk about this, but like not right now. Or I'm too tired. Like, even if you're too tired, don't try to have the conversation there. Like, that's me. I love to talk at night. He's a sleeper. Don't do it at that time. Do it in a place where you guys can both have a rational discussion.
Please, for the love of God, people, don't have tough conversations when you are already emotionally
when you're tired,
depleted,
hungry, or it's been a long day. Please
because you are going to make a very bad decision.
Yeah, it's not a good idea.
You're going to say a very bad thing.
Sometimes you just need a nap and you're not even fighting. You might just need rest.
Sometimes you just need to close your eyes, shut your mouth, and get refreshed until the next morning.
And everything's better. Yeah.
Everything's not better, but you can talk about it.
But sometimes it could just be literal exhaustion.
I'm just tired. I'm exhausted. You're not even the problem. I'm just emotionally and physically depleted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But it's okay to shelf a conversation for the moment and revisit it at a later time. Just make sure you revisit it. Shelving the conversation does not mean we're never going to go back to this. Shelving the conversation means, hey, we're both not in a space right now to have a productive and healthy conversation. Because of that, we're going to press pause on this. We are going to revisit it. There's times where him and I will even schedule our discussion, like, because we know this was just a few weeks ago. There was like a conflict that it was like a recurring conflict. And it was like, and we just got to the point where we're like, okay, tomorrow night, we're going to talk about this at 8:00. When we put the kids down, we're going to sit and we're going to talk about this. Yeah. And I'm going into this. And we both went into it knowing like, hey, we're going to talk about this at 8:00. And we talked about it at 8:00.
Yeah. And I think honestly what that does is, because I remember that. And I remember, most people would be like, frig. Counting down the time. But I remember like genuinely praying like, God, help me. Change my heart, change my attitude, help me to communicate in a way that's healthy and like bringing God into the situation. Yeah. And it allows you to come into the conversation prepared. Yeah. Not prepared with arrows to shoot at each other.
No, but prepared
with wisdom and understanding and a heart that is actually open towards, resolution.
Another thing I had was agree to disagree. Sometimes there's some things that Jose and I are never going to agree with. Literally, it's true. We're really similar, but we are
also very different in so many ways.
Opinions on so many things, and sometimes we're just not going to come to the same page on it, and it's okay. Like for the fundamental things that matter the most in our lives, we agree on. Yeah. The other things we don't agree on, and that's okay. Right. Like. So don't waste your time on those things where it's like, we're just not going to see eye to eye on it. And that's okay.
I think a mistake that couples make is thinking that because they become one, they are the same.
Agree on every single thing. Yeah, it's not going to happen.
You have to agree on everything. You have to like everything. You have to vote the same way. You have to have the same ideologies, blah, 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 blah. On the essentials, yes. You and your spouse can talk about what those essentials are, right? To you. Yeah. For us, it's faith. For us, it's our love for God. For us, it's our children, parenthood.
Yeah, the fundamental core values.
Our marriage being strong and healthy. But there are stuff that we totally disagree on, whether that's politics or, I don't know, education, whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean? There are things that we don't see eye to eye on, but that doesn't change the fact that we are still madly in love with each other. And I love you.
I thought you said mildly.
Madly in love with you, babe.
Okay, good.
We're still madly in love with each other. And honestly, I love you for your individuality.
Remember that for the rest of this day. Because when It's like, no, but
Anyways,
it's true. We do have
yeah.
to appreciate that. Another thing that I said, which is probably our last one, because we talk about this a lot. Sometimes you actually need to bring in a third party, a neutral third party, to help facilitate hard discussions without a bias.
Okay. How do you find that neutral third party?
For us, it's therapy or it's with counseling. So like there have been times where I've saved hard conversations for our counselor to help us with the conversation. And it has been extremely helpful. And I feel like he's probably done the same thing.
What if a person or couple can't afford the counseling?
I would say that go to your church if you have a church. Most churches offer some form of counseling free of charge. Correct?
Yeah.
As pastor, can you say that?
You could talk to a pastor.
Yeah.
You can include an elder couple or somebody
Someone-
that has more experience with
You
marriage
should.
than you.
Definitely.
Someone who's a mentor who
Yes.
loves you both, right? Don't go to your friend Bonquiqui that you just talked about,
Or Shania.
or or
Sarah.
Hector, or Philip, or Pablo, or did we need to go more?
Betty. That's
Betty,
a very 1950s.
or Agnes.
I just want a variety. The point is, yeah. But I think it is true to
Ivan.
have a non-biased
A
party.
non-biased party who
Yeah.
wants you both to win.
Yeah.
That could be a
'Cause
mentor,
sometimes hard
a
conversations,
counselor, pastor.
you need that other person.
Mm-hmm.
Like there have been conversations where I'm like, I just need, like, am I crazy or is he crazy or are we both crazy? Can you hear us out?
Mm-hmm.
And like, I feel like our counselor has been able to help us have those conversations and
Yeah.
help me understand him and vice versa in a way that I don't think we could do on our own.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's something that's really helpful if you can. But again, like Jose said, there are also options out there where it's like you don't have to pay for it. You can talk to a trusted leader,
Yeah.
a counselor, somebody that will give you some unbiased insight
Yep.
to it. And overall, again, if you go in with the mentality of like, this is going to produce growth, like this hard conversation, I think you're going to be okay at the end of it.
Yeah.
Don't go into it with the dramatic of like, if he doesn't see this my way, I'm out. Like, I'm
Yeah.
bouncing. We don't throw words like that around. I don't think we've ever said things like that to each other. It's just kind of not part of the vocabulary. He's stuck with me.
Yeah.
He's in it with me for the long haul and vice versa.
In
Unless-
it to win it.
There was like,
What do you mean unless?
well, I'm saying like, if I turned it to like a psychopath and like burned to the hell, I don't know.
in
The point
sickness
is,
and in health,
he would be with me even if
for
I turned
better
into a crazy
or
person.
for worse,
Yes.
till death do us part.
Yeah. So,
That is how I see
That's how
our
I see it.
marriage.
and conflict is
So if it turns into
part
an
of a
Edgar Allan
relationship.
Poe situation, I'll just lock you
No.
up in the attic and, still keep you around, throw you some food every now and then.
only do that to me. Only do that if I ever buy a pair of Crocs.
All right, let's see what the comments are saying. All right.
Do you have any final thoughts on conflict?
So seriously good, y'all. We literally logged on to watch after finishing an
hi,
argument.
Jess.
So this is really...
Same here.
We literally just started talking after finishing an argument.
yeah,
So
we were like, oh, we just
Natalie
argued.
said,
Let's go.
Ashlyn watching this diversify those names.
I got you, Ashlyn.
Oh,
Listen.
Ashlyn, I love you. And yes, you're right. It was the conversation that I was having with you, Logan and Nikki, in the office. You guys are awesome.
Do you have
All right,
any one last thought? Just like a quick 30 seconds, because we're like,
Yeah,
take
I
like
would
a last
say
thought.
if I'm going to just be more Christ-like, people, involve God in every aspect of your life. You cannot do this by yourself. This will be the gospel that we preach every single episode if we have to. We are not doing these things because we have figured it out.
No, guys, it's Jesus. We say it every time, but it's Jesus.
I think we need to make that a t-shirt.
It's
Jesus is the
Jesus.
secret sauce, guys.
Jesus is the secret sauce.
Jesus is the secret sauce, and the only reason why Natalie can be Natalie and grow and mature is because of Christ. The only way that I can change and grow and mature is because of Christ.
Yeah.
And so literally, let's not forget the most important person in the marriage, and that is God, the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And like
honestly,
how much we need him to succeed at this thing.
Literally. When we're saying that, we're not saying it like in this far away, impractical way. We're saying that literally, like when I am at my wit's end and I feel like I want to like scream at my husband or like just tell him off, I'm going to the word of God and I'm like, dear Jesus, please reveal to me in your word what I need to change, what he needs to change that I can pray for, because I can't make him change. But Holy Spirit, reveal to me what areas of my life that I'm lacking in or that he's lacking in, or like transform us and change. These are real conversations that we're having with the Lord.
Yeah.
You know, because truthfully, that's part of like what has given us longevity, honestly. It's not because this is a magical fairy tale marriage where we frolic around in the sun, you know, sunflowers. Like, it's the fact that we know that when we committed to this marriage, it was for a lifetime, even when bad things happen, even when you get on my last nerve, you know, but we cannot do it without the power of the Holy Spirit empowering us, helping us to love each other, helping us to give each other grace that is much needed in marriage.
Yeah.
And so that's our encouragement to you guys is, you know, fight fair, learn each other's styles. Don't be afraid to address conflict. Get a mediator if you have to. There's all kinds of little things that we included in this podcast. But we want you to know that we're human and
can I say one last thing?
Yeah.
Fight fair, fight with each other and for each other.
Okay.
Not against each
Can you
other.
tell he's a pastor? Because he has the 3 points, guys.
Fight fair, fight with each other, fight for each other, not against each other.
Yeah. And special shout out to Liz because she helped me with this topic because I was just having conversation. I'm like,
what a gal.
I was like, what would you like to hear? She was like, talk about fighting. And I'm like, oh, that's our specialty.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thanks for tuning in.
And we will
Jess,
catch
we
you.
love you. And Tim, Ashlyn, you know you're our girl.
Yeah, Jenna, we love you guys.
Wait, I love what Ashlyn said. I just want to read some of these comments. These are funny. Hey guys, first time watcher. Hey, welcome, Big Bubba. Cool. That's really awesome. Jess, we love you. And Tim, I like Ashley said, Natalie burns the house down and Jose would be like, it's okay. He makes beauty from ashes. You are hilarious. Okay. Hey, we love you guys.
To a pastor.
If you love what you heard or impacted you in some way, shape, or form, do us a favor. Hit that like button, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you can get notified every time we post new content on YouTube. And as always, we love you guys. We're praying for you. And reach out if you have any questions or any topics that you would like to hear discussed on the podcast. Deuces.